Well, the Sacramento Kings played better, which really isn't saying much after how horrible their performance was on Wednesday against the Atlanta Hawks. But still, the Kings lose 124-110 to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Everybody on the planet knows that the Sacramento Kings defense is horrendous. But it's about time we start talking about how bad the offense has been too. It completely let the Kings down in the fourth quarter of a winnable game tonight in Minnesota. And we'll talk about it all right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all season long. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News. Apologies for how late this post-game podcast is getting out. I had Friday night football duties. It's high school football playoffs around the Sac Joaquin section here in the greater Sacramento area. So I was keeping track of that and handling those duties while also trying to watch this Kings T-Wolves game as closely as I could. And I saw enough to be able to put this podcast together. Lots to talk about on this show. First and foremost, not only did the Kings lose 124-110 to the Timberwolves, making it their fifth straight loss, not only did the Kings fall to 3-10 on the season through their first 13 games, the Sacramento Kings are now 0-2 in the NBA Cup. Yes, tonight was an NBA Cup game, if you couldn't tell by the Mountain Dew green court, which I guess I'm a psychopath. I kind of like it. I guess I'm just a weirdo because everybody called me a weirdo for saying that I liked it on social media. I kind of like it. I don't know. It looks cool to me. I like the fact that when you zoom in on the players, you can see like a sickly green glow on their head, on their bodies, and on the white jerseys that the Kings were wearing. I don't know. Maybe I'm a psychopath. I kind of like the court. But the Kings lose their second of their 4 group stage games in the NBA Cup. Basically, I mean, they already knew that it was going to be a very tough ask to make it out of the group after losing by 31 points to the Oklahoma City Thunder. You now add this 14-point loss to the Timberwolves, and the Kings have a point differential so far of -45 in group cup play, and point differential is very important for seeding or for standings, tiebreakers, all that. So the Kings would need to obliterate both the Phoenix Suns and the Utah Jazz to have any shot of making it out of their group. That would also require a lot of help, not just in their group, but around the Western Conference period. So sorry to break it to you, Kings fans. The only hope that the Kings had of winning a trophy this season pretty much went up in smoke tonight with the loss in Minnesota. But we all know, and I understand, Doug Christie's, I don't want to call it an obsession, desire, drive to fix the Sacramento Kings on the defensive side of the court. He was a defensive-minded player himself. That's who he is instinctually as a basketball player. That's how he analyzes and how he looks at the game. And he knows, just like we all know, that defense has been a big problem for the Sacramento Kings for a long time. The Kings really haven't been good consistently defensively at all since Doug Christie was suited up and playing here in Sacramento. That was over 20 years ago. That's how bad it's been defensively here. So I know he wants to fix that. Every time we try to talk to Doug Christie or ask Doug Christie a question about the offense, whether it's in pregame media, postgame media, media scrum after a practice, Doug's always kind of dismissive of talking about the offense. We ain't worried about the offense. The offensive end, we know we can score. It's defense, defense, defense. When he was talking and clearly frustrated after one of these losses in Sacramento earlier in the week, he even made a comment like, we don't give a you-know-what on that end of the floor. We're focusing completely on the defensive end of the floor. I get what he's trying to say, right? Like, we're throwing ourselves completely into fixing this problem because until we address this problem and correct this mistake of being so bad on the defensive end, we're going to struggle to win, period. I get that. But the offense is a big problem too. It really is, especially when it matters. The Kings scored 30 points in the first quarter, 31 points in the second quarter, 30 points in the third quarter, through all three quarters, with the exception of a little bit of a slow start for the Kings. Super back and forth, fun, competitive basketball game where the Sacramento Kings looked really good in a lot of different places. And we'll talk about that on this show today. The Kings led for a good portion of this game, playing really good basketball. In the fourth quarter of a close game, the Kings scored 19 points. They shot 8 of 24 from the field, 33%, 3 of 10 from three-point range, 30%. They went over 5 minutes without scoring a single point in the fourth quarter, stuck on 100 for 5 minutes. How does that happen? How does a veteran-laden team, one of the third oldest, not one of the third oldest roster in the league, with 2 first ballot Hall of Famers in DeMar DeRozan and Russell Westbrook, with one of the best 3-level scorers in the league in Zach LaVine, who is back tonight after missing last game with injury, and with Domantas Sabonis, who is having the best offensive game of the season. How can that team, 1, not score a single point for over 5 minutes, and 2, how does that team with all that NBA experience struggle so mightily to close out games? It's one thing if you're losing by 2 or 3 or 4 points. Like the Kings were losing a handful of close games early on in the season. And while that was frustrating, like, okay, the difference of 1 or 2 shots or some big shot makers or the experience, whatever. Like the Kings are recently, they're falling apart in the fourth quarter. They're not good on either end. And again, I know the Kings want to be better defensively. You have the 27th defensive rating in the league. There's only 3 teams worse defensively than you in the league. Of course, you want to improve that. But the Kings' offensive rating is 25th. 25th. So both the offense and the defense is extremely bad. Hence why the Kings are one of the worst teams in the NBA. The numbers say they belong there on both sides of the floor. Again, I understand Doug Christie wanting to address the defense, fix the defense, all for it. But before you can truly address a weakness, you have to establish a strength, right? This roster, with all the offensive ability on the planet, it seems, this roster can't score. They're struggling to score on a nightly basis. They're inefficient offensively. They don't look like they know how to play together. A lot of times they don't have enough shooters on the floor, so defenses don't have to respect them and can pack the paint. The Kings offensively are bad. So for Doug Christie just to dismiss it as, we know we can score, offense is fine, defense, clearly not. You couldn't score a point for 5 minutes in the fourth quarter of a winnable game that was back and forth. When it came down to crunch time, your team went ice cold, in addition to not being able to get any stops. And if the sum of your offense is, well, we're at our best offensively when we get out in transition, when we create stops, then you're just screwed, because this team doesn't generate enough stops for you to score enough offensively for this team to be good, which we kind of know at this point. It's so perplexing. It's so, like, thinking back to Beam Team 1, and not to bring up Mike Brown to get on a soapbox or anything like this. I'm using this as an example. Beam Team 1, they established themselves as the best offense in NBA history at the time. Really, really good. Now, to be fair, the Golden State Warriors in the playoffs kind of figured them out a little bit. Other teams followed suit. And offensively, the Kings were never the same from Beam Team 1 the following years. They were still a good basketball team, just not as dangerous and prolific offensively as they were at that point. But Mike Brown made it very clear going into year 2 that he wanted to focus in on the defensive end of the floor and improve on the defensive end of the floor, saying a lot of the same things that Doug Christie's saying about the defense now, by the way. And I felt at the time, and you can go back and listen to the podcast. I even asked Mike Brown about this a number of times. I felt that the Kings were almost focusing too much on defense and over focusing on defense to where they were sacrificing too much of their strength to focus in on defense. So while there was defensive improvement, it wasn't enough to balance it out. And as we saw again, the Kings were never the same again. But at least they had an established strength on offense before throwing themselves in the defensive side of the floor. The Kings don't have an established strength, period. The Kings aren't good at anything. They're not. Like maybe one statistical category here or there. They're good at this. They're good at that. Like, oh, they're whatever. They're not a good basketball team. So you can't throw yourselves completely into one side of the floor, especially the weaker of the two weaknesses. You're just going to be bad. So I don't know if Doug Christie can get away much longer with just dismissing any thought on the, and I know they work on offense. I know they have offensive sets. I'm not pretending they just do defensive drills and offensively don't focus at all on that side of the floor. I get that. And I understand what Doug Christie's saying when he puts all the focus in his commentary on the defensive side of the floor. But we got to talk about the offense too, man, because it hasn't been good enough. There were some good things in this game for the Kings. Like I want to talk about Domantas Sabonis, I want to talk about Dennis Schroeder, I want to talk about Russell Westbrook in a positive way. All three of those guys had solid games. But coming up next, I want to talk about DeMar DeRozan. It's time for a breakup. Like the writing's on the wall. We'll talk about the Kings and the need for both parties to part ways in just a second. This episode of Locked On Kings is brought to you by Robinhood. Your ambition just met its match. With Robinhood, you play for the win, not just on game day, every day. Locking in on every opening, beating your PR, then beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money, trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto, all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood Strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself. Expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. And Locked On Kings is also brought to you by Game Time. Basketball season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real. Getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in. It's the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I love that when you select your tickets on Game Time for whatever the event, the price you see when you first select your seats, that's the price you pay. No hidden fees at the end that add $20, $30, $40 on that final checkout page. Plus, you can see exactly what your view looks like from your seat, whether you're going to the Golden One Center for a game and you've never been before, or it's especially helpful for if you go to like a massive concert at a football stadium, right? And you want to know like how is the stage going to be too tiny from my seat? Like you can see all of that. Plus there's zone deals or a game changer. You pick the section. Game Time picks your seats and you save big. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. I have a tremendous amount of respect for DeMar DeRozan and the career that DeMar DeRozan has had. And I know there are a lot of people, and I've seen it in my comment section, that think that I'm a DeMar DeRozan hater or I don't like the guy. I don't believe in the guy. Far from it. Like I've been a big fan of DeMar DeRozan's for a long time, covered or followed his entire NBA career. Like I am mesmerized by a lot of what DeMar DeRozan can do. And trust me, it's been very cool to have Debo in the Sacramento Kings jersey and being able to cover his career and interview him and interact with him. It's been very, very fun. But it hasn't worked. Like we can all admit, we can all, like, who are we kidding ourselves? It hasn't worked. It's been a failure of a partnership. We don't have to put the blame on anybody. We can put it on ownership, put it on DeMar, put it on Monty McNair, put it on Mike Brown. Who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's to blame. And there's not really solely one party to blame. It didn't work. The Kings tried something. I give them credit for it. They brought in a Hall of Fame caliber player, and it didn't work from the beginning, and it still isn't working now. What is best for both sides, just simply what is best for both sides, is to trade DeMar DeRozan and to move on. That's what's best. And that's what I believe the Sacramento Kings are going to look to do. Tonight, second straight game where DeMar struggled to score. 6 points, 3 of 10 from the field, 5 assists, 2 steals. Like, not only has it not worked from the start, like, he just offensively has obviously just not fit from the start. Like, he does so many great things offensively. He's so unbelievably good from the mid-range and when he gets to his spots, but it just seems like he's stuck out like a sore thumb from what the rest of the Sacramento Kings have been trying to do offensively. I mean, it's been clear as day for years, and the Kings have tried to make different things work, and it just has not worked. So do right by DeMar. Send him to a playoff team. Like, there are playoff teams out there that could absolutely use a DeMar DeRozan scoring punch off their bench. And you might be saying, Matt, he's not coming off the bench in Sacramento. What makes you think he's going to come off the bench anywhere else? Because in Sacramento, you're trying to ask him to come off the bench for a 3-10 team, not a team like the Cleveland Cavaliers or Milwaukee Bucks, or a team that could use an extra scoring punch off the bench while they're in postseason games, hard-fought battles where they could also lean on his experience in those moments. Yeah, it's a lot easier for those teams to ask DeMar to come off the bench than it is for Sacramento to do it, given their circumstances and their situations. And DeMar deserves, at 37 years old, at the sunset of his career, like, he deserves, I guess, one more shot at a ring. He deserves a chance to try and win and play meaningful basketball. Now, I'm not saying just give DeMar DeRozan away for scraps, and I don't think the Sacramento Kings will do that, but I do believe there will be a good trade out there for the Kings to get something. And what is something for DeMar? I don't know. Like, to me, it's maybe a role player of some sort that fits your identity better, or a young player who's maybe a bit of a project, whether it's a rookie or a second-year player, someone in their early 20s that you could see developing and turning into something, maybe hopefully a wing or a forward, someone of the 6'7" to 6'10" variety. And no, I'm not going to say 6'7" and do what you think I'm going to do. So stop it. Grow up. I have realistic expectations. I'm not expecting a first round pick or anything from DeMar DeRozan, but you can get something of value for your future for DeMar. And I think the Kings will try and do that. And I do believe there will be at least one, maybe not contending team, but one playoff team that will be interested in bringing him in and adding him to what they're doing to try and make a late season push or a playoff push of some sort. It would be best for DeMar, and it would be best for the Kings too. Look, it would, in my opinion, open up the freedom in the rotation, but also open up the spacing period offensively. But it would open up the freedom in the rotation for someone like Nick Clifford to get the playing time that he should get as a rookie in the later half of this season, when it doesn't really matter. Wins and losses don't really matter. Get Nick Clifford playing time. Like tonight, Nick Clifford played 6 minutes. Like, what? Well, we're just wasting time. Like, Nick Clifford needs to play more than 6 minutes, Doug. I understand you're trying to win this game, NBA Cup, blah, 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 blah. Other guys playing better, blah, blah, blah. Like, Nick Clifford needs to be out there getting playing time. What's the point? Like, what's the point if Nick Clifford's not playing? So, move on from DeMar. Get Nick Clifford some playing time. Open up that rotation a little bit more. Hopefully get something of value back that fits the future, fits the vision more than DeMar DeRozan does. Thank him and show him some appreciation on the way out. That's what's best for everybody. That's what's best for everybody. And I hope that's something that Scott Perry is able to accomplish here before the trade deadline. This episode of Locked On Kings is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than on FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is the one making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. There are some positives from this game to talk about individually. Like, I'm not going to just be Debbie Downer the entire time. I know the Kings lost. I'm not trying to sell you on any silver linings or anything like that. But, like, I've been pretty critical of Domantas Sabonis recently, not just here on Locked On Kings, on ESPN 1320 radio that I was on earlier this week. I also was on Sacktown Sports 1140 radio with Whitey Gleason earlier in the week. Like, I've been pretty critical of Domantas Sabonis and how he's been playing this season. And after the horrendous performance by everybody, Domas included, and after Doug Christie very clearly called out the veterans in that post-game, like, passionate post-press conference that he had. Like, Domantas Sabonis tonight, he stepped up. He answered the call, and he's still playing banged up. He's still playing with ribs that are clearly bothering him. But Sabonis, a season-high 34 points, 14 of 24 from the field. I can't tell you the last time Sabonis has taken more than 20 shots in a game, or 20 shots, period. Like, he was very aggressive, even going against Rudy Gobert. 11 rebounds. And what I like, too, is typically when we see Domas trying to be super aggressive, we typically see him get sloppy with the basketball and turn the ball over 4, 5, 6 times. He only turned the ball over twice. Like, this was a really solid game for Domantas Sabonis. And while I'm not expecting him to suddenly just become this massive offensive weapon for the Sacramento Kings, you need more of this from Domas on both ends, but especially offensively. You need him to be more of a presence, more of a part of this team offensively than he has been when you're paying him $42 million this season. And it's only going to go up over the next 2 years of his contract, right? Like, you didn't pay the guy and now expect him to become more than what he is necessarily, or significantly more than what he is. Domas is never going to become an offensive star. Well, a scoring star, I should say. He's offensively very gifted with his passing, although the team has not been able to figure out how to run through him effectively, probably because of how much of the spacing is a nightmare. Domas is not suddenly going to become a great scoring option in the NBA, but he can be better than what he has been. And he stepped up tonight. I got to give him credit. 34 points. Slowed down in the second half, to be fair. Everybody was terrible in the fourth quarter. But a good performance from Domantas Sabonis, and I would be doing myself and doing this job a disservice if I only criticized the guy and didn't praise him for the effort and the performance that he had tonight. Dennis Schroeder got moved to the bench. That was the big change that Doug Christie made. We'll talk about that more in just a second. But Dennis Schroeder got moved to the bench, and I could tell that he was playing with a chip on his shoulder. I could tell that he was playing pissed off. And he was channeling that frustration into how he was playing on both ends of the floor. It looked like coming off the bench, he was there, whether it was less pressure or he was able to ease into the game more or whatever, it worked. He looked good. 14 points, 5 of 13 from the field. The shooting percentage isn't great, but it's still okay. 6 rebounds, 6 assists. Like, Dennis Schroeder had one of his better games as a King coming in off the bench. So let's see if this continues, because Russell Westbrook was put into the starting lineup, gave the Kings a triple-double. Like, yay. It's cool, I guess. 13 points, 10 rebounds, 14 assists. And what was really cool was Russ passed 10,000 career assists in this game. He also, I think, became the second player ever to have over 25,000 points. Or was it 15,000 points? I should have looked this up. I didn't write this down. Shame on me. But he and LeBron James, he did something that only LeBron James has done. I'm pretty sure it's 25,000 points and 10,000 assists, which is pretty rad. So Westbrook looked good as the starting point guard. Did good job distributing. But I'm not gonna lie to you. When I saw the starting lineup, I guess I was a little disappointed, but not surprised. Just disappointed, because like, was that enough of a change after the words of after how strongly Doug spoke after that loss to the Hawks, and how pointedly his comments were at the veterans, at DeMar DeRozan, at Russell Westbrook, at Dennis Schroeder, at Domantas Sabonis. To have Dennis be the only guy that lost his starting spot. Now, I know it wasn't a one-game thing for Dennis. Dennis has been struggling as the starting point guard pretty much this entire season. But I'm actually really torn with this, because I don't think I would have the you know what to go up to DeMar DeRozan and say, hey, bud, you're coming off the bench. Now, I'm not an NBA head coach, and I would be a terrible NBA head coach, so it's not my job to. Doug Christie should have the respect of DeMar, the respect of the locker room, and the ability as a head coach to be able to make that move if it's what's best for the team. But clearly, Doug didn't feel that that was needed even after his pointed comments. I don't think it's a coincidence. And again, I'm not trying to blame DeMar for everything. It's not all DeMar's fault, but I'm just talking about fit. And it's very clear, and it's been clear for a week, or if not 2 weeks, that the second unit plays better basketball than the starting unit does. Very rarely is DeMar DeRozan out there with the second unit. Very rarely are a lot of the starters out there with the second unit. The spacing is better. The ball movement is better. They just play better team basketball. And we've seen that be the best basketball the Kings have played in the last week. Granted, they've lost 5 straight games, but I think it would probably be best for the Sacramento Kings to move DeMar DeRozan to the bench and have either Keon Ellis or Nick Clifford in that spot. I think I'd probably go Nick, not because Nick is better than Keon, and Keon absolutely is a starting caliber player, but for height difference, right? Because you still have Zach LaVine, who's going to start at that 2 spot. I guess you could shift Zach LaVine to the 3 if you wanted to, but I wouldn't feel very good about that. I like Keon in his role coming off the bench. He deserves to play more minutes, but I like him in that 6th or 7th man role coming in off the bench. This is why I want the Kings to trade DeMar DeRozan. Just open up that spot so Nick Clifford can start. And I know Keegan Murray will eventually come back. He'll take the spot that Precious Achiuwa is holding down right now. I want to see Nick Clifford and Keegan Murray playing next to each other consistently on the wing or in the forward positions. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend that I would have felt comfortable saying DeMar DeRozan or benching DeMar DeRozan in this game, but I just feel like it needs to happen. It needs to happen. And maybe Scott Perry needs to make that decision for Doug by trading DeMar as soon as he possibly can. And like I laid out for you, if you missed it, my extended special Locked On Kings podcast, where I spent almost 45 minutes walking you through what I've learned that the plan is in Sacramento, or what the active plan is, like the phase that the Kings are in, and what phase 2 involves trades and why they can't enter phase 2 or haven't really entered phase 2 yet. What's going on? Go and check that out. Because I'm not saying they need to trade DeMar DeRozan today. Maybe they would try to, but it takes 2 to tango, right? Go and check that podcast out if you haven't already. But once trade season really begins, I hope DeMar DeRozan is on the move, because it would, I think, just make everything better for everybody. So I want to hear your thoughts on this Kings loss in Minnesota. Now they go and take on the San Antonio Spurs, who I think lost tonight to the Golden State Warriors. So they'll be a little ticked off. Plus an old, maybe not so friendly face in De'Aaron Fox, plus Harrison Barnes too. Don't forget about him. I don't expect things to go well for the Kings in San Antonio against the Spurs on Sunday. But let me know how you're feeling about that game too. At Matt George Sack on Twitter. Email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com. Leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. My next podcast, I'm taking a little bit of a break here on Saturday. My next podcast will be on Sunday evening after that Kings and Spurs game. So I hope you will join me for that. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to Locked On Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.